Good afternoon, good evening. This is Dr. Shiraz Farooq and Sydney Farooq. We are at the DaBootyDoc Talk.
Hey, how's it going this evening? Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're enjoying the show so far. This is, I don't know, week number 8 maybe? 10.
No,
10.
week number 10. This is episode number 10, guys. We are here live from Colorado, America in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
Everybody, thank you very much for joining us. We're very excited to have you here. This is Dr. Shiraz Farooq, board certified colorectal surgeon, and Sydney Farooq, my spouse. We are talking about a bunch of stuff, and throughout the year we'll be educating you and maybe adding a little bit of humor and laughter.
Nah, we don't laugh around here. This is serious business.
No, it's not. It's the booty talk. It's the booty talk. You know, you talk about
where else
butts and guts.
Can you talk about that sort of thing? Where are your people? So today we're going to be continuing our discussion that's month-long about colorectal cancer awareness, because March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month.
Drum roll, guys. Colorectal cancer is the number 2 killer in both men and women above the age 45.
Unfortunately.
And it's the 3rd most common cancer overall. So this is a big deal. Colorectal cancer kills about 50,000 people a year in America, and 150,000 new people are diagnosed with colorectal cancer every year.
In fact, our last episode, we touched on the fact that they lowered the age where you need to be getting your screening test from 50 to 45 in the last few years. So very important that you're taking care of your health, getting screened properly, because screening definitely is saving lives in this case.
So we're very excited to have you guys here live from Colorado, America. This is the DaBootyDoc Talk with Dr. Shiraz Farooq and Sydney Farooq. Today's topic is genetics and colorectal cancer. Now, this is not the genes we're talking about, okay? I've been bringing it up multiple times. Levi's, Jordache, Wrangler,
whatever you may prefer. But we're talking about your DNA. So
hold on, these brands, do they even exist now?
Oh, how old are you?
I don't know. I'm old enough to get a colonoscopy pretty soon, which is next week.
Next week.
Actually, I'm kind of late to the party, guys, because the age has been reduced from 50 to 45.
And I'm sure they told the doctors first about that.
So I am on the schedule for next week to get a colonoscopy and get screened for colorectal cancer.
Now we're making sure that he's practicing what he preaches. So all of our patients out there that are watching, you know what he's in for.
Yes, guys, colorectal cancer can be prevented, and one of the biggest tools we have is colonoscopy screening, and a test where we go inside and remove polyps, and we can reduce the risk of colorectal cancer.
That's right. So I have not had a screening exam yet, because I'm definitely not that old.
Yes, you're a young one, as I say.
But I have been telling my family members who haven't done it yet, especially my father. He's 60 this year, and he's still refusing to get an exam. So I'm hoping that my husband can encourage those people out there that just don't want to get it done. We understand, but it's something that's definitely necessary. So
this is a shout out to my family members who are listening and maybe listening. Guys, get a colonoscopy if you're of the age 45 and above.
Yeah, come on, help us out here.
Well, this is coming from your own family members, so please, I know family members, nobody listens to them, but this is true.
But we've heard many stories, and we've saved a lot of lives, so there's importance to it. So definitely be that advocate for not only yourself, but for your family, because guess what? We're talking about your genes here, so that means your kids. So maybe you just find out at age 50 that you have a predisposition for some sort of genetic mutation that makes you prone to colorectal cancer. It's important that your kids know about that.
So what are genes, guys? Is this something, the blue jeans that I wear, the Levi's produced 200 years ago, I think? Or is it the Lucky brand new jeans that are out there?
There you go, there's a new one.
They're new brands. I'm a little old, but I do know some new brands.
Of course, we're talking about your genes in your biology. So
every cell has a nucleus, and in the nucleus of every cell, which is the center of the universe of that cell, is genetic material that's wrapped around and into chromosomes. And you might have read this in biology or some other science field, but the genes are part of the DNA. That's what makes us who we are. This is the copy of the message inside the cell that allows the cell to replicate.
That's right. And when your cells are replicating, sometimes things don't go the way they're expected.
Correct. And if the replication process is not exact and you don't make an exact copy, then that second copy can have a problem. And that problem can present as a cancer.
And there's different parts of your genes, as I understand it, that either help aid with replication, or if there is a mishap during replication, your genes have the ability maybe to correct it in some cases, unless they're missing certain aspects to them, or they...
Do you know there are genes for women that don't have pockets, but they look like pockets?
Tell me more.
I found out about
Oh,
it.
wait,
and I was like,
I thought you was talking about real
genes.
genes.
Yes, I'm talking
No, I
about
think you're
real
talking about
genes.
genetics genes. I'm like, there's pockets in
I'm
your
finding-
DNA? No way.
No, but what I was coming to is that genetics is a complex issue. Just like a pair of pants or jeans have different variations and different, they can be skinny jeans, they can be bell-bottom jeans. So
Right.
genes can be in both male and females are different.
So if your genes are missing their pockets, then we might have a problem ahead.
Correct. So your hands may not go in it, and you may not be able to put some pocket money.
Then you
in
might
it.
be born without hands later on down the line.
That could happen too. So genetics plays a very important role in replicating us as human beings and
Yes.
as animals and cellular organisms. So what we are, our children, we pass off the genetic material to them, and then if we have cancer pathology or other diseases, we can give it to our family members.
Right. So genetic mutations can be hereditary.
So colorectal cancer is one of these cancers, which in about 5 to 10% of the population can be genetics. And we still don't know, because I'm raising the number to about 10%, but really we know about 5% of colorectal cancer.
yeah, if you
comes
did your
from that.
research today, you'd probably hear that number, that maybe about 5% of colon and rectal cancers are caused by genetic mutations
That
or
we know of.
malfunctions.
But
That we
we
know of.
suspect that there is a larger number of them. Some say up to 30%, but what we really know is about another 5%. So in the future, for the future generation, our children, guys,
10,000 generations into the future.
yes, you're going to learn a lot more about your genetic DNA, and you will be able to treat disease like that. And diseases like colorectal cancer may not be prevalent at all.
Right, because if we can determine what's switching on and off and what's mutating in the genes, then maybe we can learn to modify those genes too.
However, if you're all eating microplastics in the future, guys, and not eating good, we're all doomed. I'm just going to be the doom and gloom doctor today.
Sorry, he likes to doom everybody, I guess. We're a lot more positive around here
Yes, we
usually,
are.
but no, I mean, there's a lot of unavoidable factors and avoidable factors. So that'll be part of our discussion too. So we want to find out, if you are predispositioned to colorectal cancer because of your genes,
So,
then what can you do? So, but I want to know a little bit more about how these genes are affected. Is it because you're missing something? Is something changing in the genes?
so the genes work, so the DNA, when it's replicating, okay, at that point, the replication process can be where the genes can have a defect in the repair system. They can be genes that activate certain systems, or they can be genes that suppress some systems. So inside a machine that we are, there are various functions going on, and upregulation or downregulation of these genetic modules or things can cause a problem. For example, the largest genetic group that we quantify is called Lynch syndrome, or HNPCC, where this is about 3% of patients can have colorectal cancer that is autosomal dominant, meaning it may not skip a generation, and you can pass it to your young ones immediately. And that would mean that there could be a problem in the repair of their genes, and that repair manifests as colon and rectal cancer and polyps that turn into cancer.
So you actually have genes that prevent the development of tumors in the colon.
And if you suppress them, that could cause a problem. Or if you have multiplication errors, you can have that problem.
So there's also genes that help keep tumors from producing.
Correct.
So again, if you're missing or you have a malfunctioning DNA, then it's not going to do its job, which is to suppress or prevent or help get rid of polyps and tumors that are developing.
Second, a group of people that we know about have about 1 to 2% of them may have what's called familial adenomatous polyposis, or FAP.
Much
These
easier to say.
FAP patients have also a autosomal dominant pathway, and what happens is that in this group, these patients may develop polyps and then cancers very early on, even in their childhood.
Wow.
So these patients have to be monitored, and the risk of cancers is from the mouth to the anus. So they can develop cancers in the small intestine. They can get cancers in the colon. They can have uterine cancers.
So some of these genetic mutations can cause other cancers as well, not just
Correct.
colon and rectal
Correct.
cancer.
And that's an issue for some of these cancers that are present. So FAP has a certain criteria. You have to meet that, and then that means that further treatment is available after that.
So if you find out that someone in your family does have this genetic mutation, you want to learn for yourself too. What's the steps? How do we diagnose, or are there testing? Do you have to get, your DNA checked?
I want my genes checked. You go to a tailor, and then he's gonna measure your waist and say, doctor or human being, you're eating too much, you need to exercise, and your waist needs to go down.
And while we're here, let's check the DNA of your genes.
Exactly, and for that you actually have to get a blood draw done, and you would talk to your doctor about it, who will send the blood sample to a specific lab, and where they run some specific and special testing. This testing will find out what the problems in your DNA are. Now, do you know that the human DNA has been completely mapped?
Recently.
Yes, humanity has been successful.
The genome, right?
The Human Genome Project was a big deal, which was a multi-billion-dollar.
Do you think they
project.
just lied and they're just C? We'll put a C here
No,
too.
no. This was a project that was done all over the world. Scientists got together from different parts of the world, and they would compare their notes. And this Human Genome Project is the largest medical collaboration. And since then, actually, COVID has been the largest medical collaboration.
Sure.
So scientists have come around, and the Human Genome Project actually helped us find the vaccine for this virus also. So we have made steps in identifying.
Isn't it funny how when we work
genes.
collaboratively with other nations and people and great minds that we can accomplish something so
Correct.
amazing?
We are one world. We are all human beings on this planet, which is whirling through the space. So on this stone that we are one nation, and DNA of all human beings is very similar. And where this dissimilarity happens, you get pathology and cancers and other diseases.
So basically a blood test is one of your only options for checking your DNA?
They're also working on other DNA testing, including body fluids and sometimes stool tests and swab tests and breath tests. So there are many companies right now that are working on that. There are breath tests that are coming out. So we are in a new era where genetic testing is going to be very helpful and kind of scary also.
But it has to be specific. When they're testing your blood, it's like going to any other type of blood test where they're searching for something. They're specifically seeking.
Correct. So for colorectal cancer, we know that there are specific genes that can affect you and can cause different types of colorectal cancer.
Okay.
Some on the right side, some on the left side. Some are associated with other cancers. Some are associated with other skin lesions and other problems in the body. So you are able to get a complete profile that is helpful to the genetic counselor. So from the doctor,
Right, I
your
was gonna
test,
ask that.
your test.
Who can read these results to you?
Yeah,
or-
because the tests are very complicated. They have sequencing and funny scientific language which you have to be trained to understand. And genetic counselors are highly educated technicians and individuals who are able to decipher that language and the DNA code and then help the family member tell them, oops, you got the gene, or yay, you don't have the gene.
True.
So they can also tell you going backwards and forwards what's going on or what can happen. So genetic testing plays a very big role in somebody who's young, somebody who has a family history of colorectal cancer, and somebody who has some funny abnormalities on endoscopies and other testing that sometimes we see as doctors.
Right. So if you do have a family member that you know of this, then you should probably get a DNA test. Is it dangerous? Is it expensive? I mean, how hard is it to get? Well, if I just go to my primary care and say, hey, my dad had colon cancer, I want to know if I'm predispositioned for it. Am I going to be able to get signed up for a test? Do I have to advocate for it?
This is a very important question, and we don't have all the answers because genetic testing is still in evolution. So there are certain criteria you have to meet for which genetic testing is advised and is paid by insurance companies, and for others it's not. So it's a healthcare delivery issue. It's a issue for the entire for many governments and for all of us together to understand how genetic testing as a tool can be applied as a screening test and as a diagnostic test. So it's in the toolbox, but we are not 100% sure who and why and what
it's going to do.
But
right?
that's where your providers and your genetic counselors will help. So your primary care doctor will probably tell you that based on what your age is, what your family member link is, whether it's your father, your mother, your uncles, your grandmothers, or your siblings, they will be then talking to you and saying, okay, go see a specialist. And those specialists are colorectal surgeons and gastroenterologists, and in some cases, general surgeons and internists also. So these are people who are able to do endoscopic evaluation of the colon.
Now, is that part of your diagnosis too?
Yes, so then you run from a screening test to a colonoscopy diagnostic test, so that can happen. And
So
that,
you advise, like, say you get positive DNA testing, then you think best recommendation at that time would be to get a colonoscopy, or do you wait till you're having symptoms? I mean, what if I'm 30 and I find out that I have some sort of predisposition?
So at 30, if you have symptoms of rectal bleeding, abdominal pain, diarrhea, bloating, subtle weight loss.
If I had no symptoms, would you say like maybe 10 years earlier than the 45 age limit, or?
So yeah, so if you have family members in your family who had colorectal cancer, for example, if somebody's mom has colorectal cancer at age 50, so that would mean that they would need to get a colonoscopy at age 40. The recommendation is about 10 years before to get a colonoscopy, or start with the stool testing with DNA.
Right.
If somebody has multiple family members with colorectal cancer, uncles, aunts, etc., then the number may be different. You may be more than 10 years or about 10 years. So it depends. And the younger the age, the higher the risk. For example, if you have a family member with a colorectal cancer at age 30, that means at age 20, you may have to get a colonoscopy. So those things have to be measured, and you have to talk to your doctors about it.
So you can kind of base it on the history of the person preceding you.
Correct. So there's a detailed history that has to be done by the provider, and we have to look and answer how we can help that patient. In the toolbox, like you mentioned, these tests are there as a screening test. So that's something somebody can do. Oh my God, I have a family member with colorectal cancer. Now I get a colonoscopy. And people are going to ask, what can I do next? How do I prevent my risk of colorectal cancer from going down? So you will get genetic testing if the genetic testing is positive. then in some cases, for some of the genetic diseases that are out there, patients may have to get what's called a prophylactic surgery. And prophylaxis means that we are trying to actively prevent colorectal cancer. For these very small number of patients, they may have to have their bowel, their colon removed entirely before they become adults or as they become adults. And that's a very scary thought. You know, you're 18 and you get diagnosed with colorectal polyps and you get a DNA test and that's positive. That means that you're going to get colorectal cancer in the next 10 years or 5 years. So your doctor or a team of doctors may advise you to undergo removal of the entire colon. And that's a very big operation, but that may be done.
That's a pretty big preventative step.
Yes, but in some cases, that preventative step may be necessary if they have a certain genetic gene that is positive and we are sure that they're going to get cancer. And for some of these diseases, the risk can be as high as 100%. That everybody with autosomal dominant FAP may be required to get a colectomy because they have a 100% risk of colorectal cancer. So then you have to figure out, oops, I'm going to get cancer and die, or do I live by having my colon removed and then modify my life after that? So those are things that may be in the mind of some people who have this problem.
So different markers for different genetic dispositions could have different results for what you might be required to do.
Correct. So prophylactic surgery may be different, where you may do a partial colectomy, or you may remove their uterus or ovaries or something else also if they have risk factors.
Now that's a pretty drastic situation. Otherwise, what do? You just monitor, you get regular
Yes.
scopes?
So the other thing we do along with these patients is we may be aggressively monitoring them with colonoscopies and screening tests like DNA testing every year and colonoscopies every couple of years, or upper endoscopies in some cases. So our threshold for diagnosing or for saying, hey, you're at high risk, let's get you better and let's keep you alive and let's make sure that you don't get cancer. So those are things that we'll be looking at. Other things that you're coming to my favorite topic, which is prevention. Oh my gosh. So how do you prevent colorectal cancer in these people?
I'll let you guys guess.
Okay, so here's the important part which I want to talk to you about, guys. For a lot of colorectal cancers, even with genetic predisposition, environmental factors can help. So adding if you have a sedentary lifestyle, you don't work out, if you drink a lot of alcohol, if you're eating a lot of red meat, if you're not eating a lot of fiber and fruits and vegetables, your risk of colorectal cancer will go up.
Yeah.
And genetics will multiply. Also, Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis and other inflammation may also increase your risk of colorectal cancer.
Right. So a diseased colon, you're going to be greater risk factor.
So treating that with medication or surgery may be necessary. Similarly, if you have bad habits and you're drinking alcohol and you're eating
a plate full of microplastics.
Just
and
straight up microplastics. How do you eat that?
Just joking.
You think mac and cheese would be the answer?
Kind of was thinking about microwavable mac and cheese.
Could be. There's lots of microwavable microplastics that are ruining our lives. And actually, people born after 1990 to 95 have double the risk of colorectal cancer than people who were born in the 50s. So that generation that was born earlier didn't have microplastics. So now we're finding that our younger generations, XYZ, whatever we're calling them, these kiddos are now getting higher risk of colorectal cancer. And diet and environmental factors and not working out and abusing your body is a very big problem. And that is why prevention is better than cure, or like cure.
Or it should coincide with it. So if you're not encouraged to take care of your health already, which we should be.
Shake your booty, guys.
Then definitely know what your risks are.
The DaBootyDoc says, eat fiber, exercise, drink less alcohol, and eat less red meat.
And know your family history.
Correct.
For any disease.
And what this does is it causes you to decrease your risk of colorectal cancer. And that, my guys, is the goal.
That's right. And also, there's going to be other benefits too. So when you're taking preventative measures against colorectal cancer, you're also, benefiting your lifestyle. You're preventing other disease that might be prevalent. So a healthy lifestyle is the answer to a lot of different things.
You think that's the answer? If we live a healthy lifestyle, we'll get healthier?
I think so.
I think so too.
I think it might even be that easy.
I think it is that easy, and that's the whole point of educating people about
Got a quick little funny story. I didn't tell you about this one yet.
Okay.
And it's not exactly related to colorectal cancer, but one of our patients was having an anorectal issue, and he had follow-up scheduled. So he called me to cancel his follow-up because he told me, I used the cream that you guys gave me. It made it more irritated. The medication wasn't working. So he took it upon himself to try a natural remedy, which was fresh from his aloe plant. So he's, being very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like open with me over the phone, and is saying, he's just like taking aloe every day and putting it on his bottom, and it totally cured his problem. And, I really liked what he was saying because he did some lifestyle habits. He incorporated some natural elements. It wasn't really prescribed by his doctor, but he was doing some research about some things that brought that topic up. So
plant medicine works. I don't know how in this circumstance it worked because I'm not able to give medical advice. Oh, by the way, guys, the disclaimer is that we are not giving medical advice. We are talking to you about educating you about all of this. So
smear aloe on your bottom.
No, don't do that.
By the way, I also encouraged him to keep his follow-up appointment so he can still, be followed up on and make sure what he's doing works. But
I wanted to make. Patients, when they get rectal bleeding, when they have an itchy butt, when they have diarrhea, constipation, change of bowel habits, when they can't poop, or they have a sudden weight loss, please don't wait. Go see a doctor because colorectal cancer hides. And for younger people, its symptoms are very different. And our goal is to prevent it by diagnosing it and then treating it.
That's right.
So colorectal cancer is entirely preventable, guys. You nip the evil in the bud. For the 95% of population, majority of us, it's not a genetic problem. It's an environmental or problem where it's a replication issue. And that can be improved and sometimes prevented with changing your diet, exercise, getting a colonoscopy or a DNA test, and talking about it.
That's what I was going to say. Sometimes you might not know why Grandpa Joe passed away 25 years ago. You didn't ever ask about your family history. So get informed about who's got what going on in your family.
You don't have to be nosy, but at Thanksgiving dinner while they're about to cut the turkey, you better ask who had colorectal
cancer. Anyone have hemorrhoids around here and you know about?
Well, why is that? It is important because as we guys are eating and as we're talking about consumption, it's not a bad idea to bring it up at your family dinner. Hey guys, colorectal cancer kills a lot of people. Please get checked.
Like holidays during, we could do Easter. At your Easter brunch, ask your family
to eat more fiber.
Bring a bottle of flaxseed fiber to sprinkle on everything for everyone for their colons.
Yes. So fiber is very important, guys. As you eat a healthier diet, and that allows the bowels to go through, colorectal cancer risk goes by. But I wanted to end this here. This is the 30th minute. What's the last word, Sydney?
Eat more fiber.
And prevent colorectal cancer.
Prevent colorectal cancer.
By getting a colonoscopy or a
I
test.
wore my shirt yesterday. I didn't have it. We have our custom colorectal cancer awareness shirts.
So get checked, guys. Get a colonoscopy, please. March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month.
Start the conversation.
Do your best. We are here to help you boost your morale and get you out.
Yeah, and if you have a short story you want to share, pop it in our comments, message us. That's how we change lives. So we spread the word to our friends and families, and they send them here. So
thank you, guys. DaBootyDoc Talk with Sydney and Shiraz.
Bye.
Thursday evening. Everybody have a fantastic time.
Yeah, see you next week, 7 p.m.
Yes,
Have a
guys.
good night.
Thank you.